is on like popcorn. Nancy is gonna turn them every which way but loose. My God.
Nolan Wells bombshell tonight. The dead teen's messages deleted after his body washes ashore.
Okay, so TMZ has just released an exclusive video that people are believing is Nolan Wells, the last images caught of him before his death. Before we get into the main event, somebody has entered the chat. All right, so it's very normal. They're saying that's allegedly Nolan right there. Zoom in on that, because it also offers some new evidence, because whose boat is that Nolan is on, if that is in fact Nolan? Some of you may not know, yesterday was Nolan Wells' funeral. Al Sharpton officiated and offered a $50,000 finder's fee to any tips, which Tyler Perry then matched. So $100,000 to anyone out there with tips on what happened to Nolan Wells. Now, I will say there's a high probability that that is Nolan, because how many black kids are out there in the Gulf on Horn Island, uninhabited island, reaching over to what seems to be a cooler in somebody's boat? Like, who is this guy, this big guy here, probably an adult, in the boat there? Because last we heard, Nolan's friends said they left him because he was talking to a girl, and he was left behind on the island. Well, that would leave a lot of questions there. Let's see the rest of this. It's just a sweeping view, kind of like the other video where they had the audio and they thought maybe that was Nolan. This is the video in its entirety, slowed down right there. They're saying that's Nolan. Seems pretty tall. I think Nolan was about 6'2", 6'1", 6'2", something like that. Okay. So that's interesting. This is before. I want to see what time this actually was. Yeah, they were asking, is this Katie's dad? Because Katie is the girl who actually, they said, Nolan was talking to. That's been the word. Is that Katie's dad? Is that Katie's family's boat? Okay. So during the last hours of the Horn Island 4th of July party. So these might reveal the first clues about who he was with during the last hours of the Horn Island 4th of July party. But there was more interesting stuff going on. Somebody that lives for this type of crime solving on the news, Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace is now aware of who Nolan is. Now, granted, this is 2 or 3 weeks late, but she now has got the message, and I will say she is dogged in her approach to these type of cases. You know, you think of Casey Anthony and what's the other girl? Natalie Holloway, and all these famous cases. One of the people that was covering this nonstop was Nancy Grace. So say what you want to say about her. I mean, there's been times where I didn't agree with her, of course, but when she gets on a case, she's like a dog on a bone. Forgive the euphemism.
Nolan Wells bombshell tonight. The dead teen's messages deleted after his body washes ashore. Caitlin.
Now that is old information, you know, like people, we know that, but she's piecing it together in a way that's probably important right now. She's got to understand, like, why was this teen's phone wiped after his body was discovered? What would those messages hold in there? And is there a way to forensically find out what those messages said if they were, in fact, incriminating anybody in this case?
Now, allegations have reared their ugly head that his phone has been tampered with and items have been deleted. Explain.
They had his phone. And when his mother was looking for his phone when he was missing, there were two different ways to identify it, either a Snapchat location or a Life 360 location. They showed different locations, which is very possible because one updates automatically, the other only updates when you open the app. But when she finally tracked it down, she says there was nothing on it from that day.
Nolan Wells.
Yes, there was nothing on it. That is correct. But like I said, Nancy Grace doesn't go down without a fight. She has made it clear that she is about to really step out there. I'm glad to see it. Because just because the funeral happened and they chose to have a closed casket at the funeral, which kind of gives you an indication of probably the condition of the body. Just because the funeral happened does not mean the investigation stops. Doesn't mean that you should stop trying to find out what happened, that we're just going to take the common narrative out here that he somehow just drowned mysteriously.
Lastly, I ask that each of you keep Nolan's memory alive. Hold him close in your hearts. Share his stories and never stop saying his name. As long as we continue to remember him, his light will continue to shine through us all. Nolan, we love you. We'll continue to fight for you. Yes. And until we meet again, and thank you all for coming. Thank you.
I've just got so many questions about how this happened. Was there anyone else on Horn Island
Good
when
question.
Nolan's body was found?
Now, there was the park ranger was out there, and there was some law enforcement officials that actually had their boats anchored out there. You know, they were kind of like waiting around for a call of what to do. What people don't realize is when you're looking for a body on the water, especially in the Gulf where you have waves going and you have white caps, it's a little bit harder to see. When you're in a boat, you can only kind of see the vicinity around you. So when we put these seaplanes up in the air, we can get a much more visual of the much more bigger area. And these seaplanes can go low and slow.
Actually, this footage right here is actually them discovering the body. This is from the Cajun Navy, the flyover after the body was discovered here on the northern tip of Horn Island.
Up in the air, we can get a much more visual of the much more bigger area. And these seaplanes can go low and slow. So what we do is we stay in contact with the officials on the ground and tell them what we see. And if they see something too, they can relay it up to us and we can go investigate it. So in this case, there were several law enforcement boats that were just kind of hanging out in the area on the island. And there was numerous other boats in the area, you know, circling and looking. But the body was found by a park ranger as it washed up on the beach.
You know, I'm very curious, Todd. Guys, joining us, Todd Terrell with United Cajun Navy. When I said, was anyone else on the island when Nolan's body was found? Your answer was completely 100% accurate, but let me rephrase and refine my question. You're saying the park ranger found him. That leads me to believe there were no friends. There was no newly met girlfriend. So am I left to believe that he goes out swimming all on his own and the friend girl leaves, the mates for school leave, everybody just leaves him out in the water and he dies and then just conveniently washes ashore? Somebody just left him out in the water? Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because actually Todd breaks down how the body washed ashore and the days in which a body normally washes ashore.
Did you see any visible injuries or anything that you can speak to at that distance?
No, from that height, right? So it's best I can do. The description matched Nolan Wells. It matched the area. It was the area where we were looking. So I had good reason to believe, even before I heard from the sheriff's office, that it was him. The swim trunks appeared to be similar color to what was reported. The one thing.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a contradiction. If he was fully clothed when they found him, did they mean fully clothed in swim trunks? Now he has swim trunks. Maybe he has swim trunks and a shirt. I don't know. Interesting.
Thing I'll say about the condition of the body, and again, I want to stress very, as much as I can, that I'm at 450 feet in the air. So I did not have a good ground's eye view look. But normally when a body's been floating, you'll see some bloating and whatnot. He wasn't in the water that long. The water temperature was high. He has a low body mass index. So both of those factors together, normally we'll look for a body to pop up on about day 4, but we knew it was possible he could pop up as soon as day 2. And this was day 2.
So right on time, his body appears. Because what happens is as someone is drowning, they sink to the bottom, but as gases in their body release, they bloat and then they float. And he says normally it takes about 4 days, but in this case, because of the warm water, I believe, and the body mass index of Nolan Wells, who's an athlete, he came up only in 2 days. Interesting.
But again, the body, I'm trying to think of the most respectful way to say it. The body did not seem at that height to be disproportionate to the way it should look. Now, I could not get a good look at his face. I could not get a good look of the front side of his body, which was on the beach. I was really looking at his back of his legs, back of his arms, that kind of thing. And so that was my vantage point, and I just want to stress to everybody that that's not an ideal vantage point. It's just what I could see, and plus I'm flying at like 90 knots, so I'm going pretty fast. So I'm really getting when I say a glimpse, it's a glimpse.
Is there any way to find out what the police reports say of the sheriff's or the park rangers' reports, or any of these people that were involved on the ground? That's what I'm interested to hear.
Anything about the location, how close to shore, how far from the shore when he was last seen, that struck you as unusual?
I don't want to say unusual, but I would say that the wind and drift patterns that I was studying had me believing that he was going to be taken through that ship channel between Horn Island and Ship Island and carried south. It's important to also point out that just like maybe 6 or 7 weeks prior to this, there was a shrimp boat worker who had gone off MOB, man overboard, off of a shrimp boat in Pascagoula, which is on the coast, like close to Horn Island. And it took about a week before we found him, but he had washed up all the way down at the Chandelier Island. So that could have also influenced my pattern of thought, just because in a similar, he didn't go.
Or as some people have speculated, possibly he was placed in that area. That's interesting. But sounds like the currents can get very strong, and they can take somebody a far distance after drowning.
Aboard on the island, but it was in a similar area, and he got carried through that channel. Based on where Nolan washed up, my assumption, again, I'm a search and rescue person. I'm not an investigator, but it seems like what happened was he was carried north, which indicates to me that he might have got caught in a rip current, and it carried him north. And then as the tide slacked and the current changed back to a southward heading, it carried him right back to the beach. The only thing that really stood out to me that I was not expecting is that he washed up very, very close to the last spot where he was seen alive.
Boom. That's an important fact right there. He washed up close to where he was last seen. Was he alive when he was put into the water? I also had a theory maybe that since he got left by his friends and maybe nobody else wanted to take him, and he was possibly potentially inebriated and thought maybe he could swim back, which is crazy to think. You know, it's sad, man. It's sad that this had to be the outcome of this young man's life.
Take place, or is someone jumping in saying that's me to misdirect or to redirect us from looking at it? That's the one question. The other question that you asked is, who's the girl? Her name is apparently, allegedly, Katie. That's kind of all we know, just Katie. Someone purporting to be related to Katie went on social media, and this is not something that we've been able to confirm, nor have investigators confirmed it. But according to this person, Katie said, we met, we talked, he seemed like he was going back on the boat with his friends, and that was that. So
What was that?
Katie.
Okay, hold on
Katie's
right
side of
there.
the story-
Caitlin Becker. Caitlin. Right there. The girl, if she exists, says they talked, they chatted it up, probably flirting with each other, if accounts are true. Then he leaves to go back to the boat with his friends. But according to the friends, he stayed with her. Right there, that is a conflict.
Contradiction.
That doesn't fit. Now, Caitlin Becker and the rest of the panel, I want you to hear this.
Is that Nolan in the video?
I can't tell. It's too far away. But in that video, I feel like the voices are too clear. Like from the side, it's too clear.
Critical moment where Katie, if
It's interesting. I'm not going to play the whole video, but Nancy Grace, once again, is offering some very interesting questions. And, you know, she's very dramatic and very forward about how she talks about things. So I think this brings the Nolan Wells case to the mainstream. We've been talking about it here online. Obviously, a lot of channels have been step by step. I've been paying attention. But somebody like Nancy Grace getting involved is possibly something that can help to get to the bottom of this. Because as of now, nobody's been charged. Nobody knows what's going on, and nobody else has spoken out except for some people who say they weren't involved. And that also is strange. But bringing up the fact, you know, because she's also, I think she was an ex-attorney. She's hearing certain things that a lot of us speculated, if that makes any sense. Like, she's hearing the fact that these messages were erased. That would suggest some type of foul play. But anyway, let me know what y'all think about it in the comments. Rest in peace, Nolan Wells. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell notification for all uploads. If you want to watch more, please watch one of these videos down below. Make sure to hype this video. That helps push the video in the algorithm. This is Faucette Media.